Hi everyone, thanks for joining me. In this particular webinar, we're going to take a look at one of the most exciting, one of the most valuable outcomes that you can get from learning NLP. That's modelling excellence. What is it that you'd like to become? How would you like to be spending your days? What sort of skills would you like to have that you don't already possess? And how good do you want to become at what you do? You know, with enough time, enough dedication, and enough resilience, you can have whatever you want from life. You can have whatever skills that you'd like. And in this particular video, I'm going to talk you through how to get what you want, how to develop excellence using NLP modelling. The beauty of the NLP structure is that once you understand how this works, then not only can you do this yourself, but you can also work with others so that they can do it too. And this is one of the reasons why NLP is fantastic for coaches. Students on our NLP training courses learn the skills, the thought processes that they need in order to acquire excellence and develop this with other people, whatever the field. Now, you may already know what you want to become excellent at. You may have goals and objectives already written down for your life, and watching this may be a step towards achieving them. But if you don't already know, or you're unsure, then think of this. You're on your deathbed and you're looking back on your life. What is it that you're most proud of when you look back now? What is it that you wish that you'd done more of? What is it that you wish that you'd pursued and you didn't? What sort of things do you wish that you changed about yourself and the way that you're living? What's the most important thing about the way that you lived your life? Now, pause the video if you need to. Go and grab a pen and a piece of paper and write these things down. Write down the answers that spring to mind to these questions. So go ahead and do that now. Have you done that? Great. So now that you know what you know, how does this change things? What ideas do you get about what you want to do? And looking into the future, what is it that you want to achieve? If you haven't got a list, then pause the video and write one out now. Okay, so you've got your list. I'm assuming that you've got your list. And so we can split this list into two columns. Column 1 is the things on the list that you don't want, and you have or you do now. And column 2 is what you do want, the skills that you want, the habits that you want, and the outcomes that you want. So write out two columns on a fresh piece of paper and create two lists, column 1 and column 2. So write out two columns, column 1 and column 2 on a fresh piece of paper and create two lists. Have you done that? Great. So by doing this, you've translated thoughts into language. Thinking about the words neuro-linguistic programming, the N of NLP is the neuro or thoughts. You've translated them into the L in NLP, which is linguistics or language. Column 1 is a list of things that you don't want, and they may include habits that you don't want, as well as possibly situations in life or mental blocks or obstacles. You've written them down, so they're identified as being important to you. And some of them are possibly repeating patterns, and this is the P in NLP programming, the repeating patterns of behaviour, and maybe they involve other people as well. So if you look at this list and think now of other things that should be on it in column 1, then just go ahead and add them. Column 2 is a list of things that you do want. And these may include mindsets, they may include states of mind, possessions, and skills. maybe also habits. Are there any other things that you'd like to add to this particular column, to this particular list? Go ahead and add them. Okay, so now we've got our lists. So think about the things in column 2 now. How come you don't have them already? You may notice as you contemplate this that the reason that you don't have some of them relates to some of the things that you've written down in column 1. Maybe it does as you look at column 1. Does it? It may do. And if we ignore the things that are holding us back, then it's tricky to move forward. We've got to address our problems, our mental blocks. And then with them removed, we can focus on getting what we want. Just noticing this, if you have, may help you change. And that's how easy change can take place. If it hasn't changed anything this time, then it might just have created a shift in your thinking, and this can be the precursor to change. Anyway, the big point of this is that NLP provides you with techniques and processes that you can use to solve the problems in column 1 and create the future that you want in column 2. Sound good? Great. Now, in this video, we're going to concentrate on column 2. Our NLP training courses take a 2-stage process. Remove any problems and then create results. 1, 2. In this particular webinar, we're going to assume that your problems are solved at stage 1, and we're going to focus on getting the things that you want at stage 2. The skills that you want, the mindsets that you want. And actually, these two things often go together, don't they? Mindsets and skills. How much is the stuff that goes on in our head responsible for our success or our lack of success, our action or our lack of action? The oldest person to climb Mount Everest was over 80 years of age. The oldest person to run a marathon was over 100. The oldest person to get to the North Pole was over 80. The youngest person to build a business and make $1 million, less than 14 years of age. Whether we think we can or we think we can't achieve whatever we want to achieve will often determine whether we do. These people all thought that they could, and they did. You know, if you think you can, you just might. More and more as time goes on and experiments are conducted and evidence gathered, we're beginning to understand that excellence and talent is actually something that can be acquired, and that in the past perhaps we've been given too much credit to the nature, the inherited element of talent. And what we're talking about with NLP modelling is a form of nurturing the talent, nurturing the excellence. So if you're going to go ahead and learn a skill and become excellent at something, then how do you actually go about doing that? That's the question, isn't it? What are the key things that the people who are excellent are actually doing that others aren't doing? Or what are they thinking that others don't think? Well, we've actually got to ask them. If we want to know the answer, then we've actually got to just ask them the questions. You can go ahead and you can take a trial and error based approach, or you can find somebody with the mindsets and the skills that you want, find out how they do it, and copy them. This is what top organisations do, top sports teams, anybody at the top of their game, this is what they do. In motor racing, the top teams hide vital parts of their cars so that the other teams don't find out what their success formulas are. This happens in cycling, top cycling. It happens in sailing as well, in the America's Cup, where they hide the boats so that the other teams can't see what the boats look like and copy the shape and the dynamics of these boats. It happens in technology, in the tablet and smartphone war as well between, at the moment, Apple and Samsung. I'm not saying that we blatantly copy trademarked, patented and copyrighted material, but find out what other people do and do it better and do it in your own way. Successful people will often be only too pleased to talk about themselves and their success. In fact, often they learn as much about themselves as the person does who's modelling them. They find out ways to get even better, to discover things that are limiting them and holding them back from progressing further. We see top sports people on TV or live and we watch them and we imagine being able to do what they can do. Do we think that we can, or do we think that we can't do it? If we think that we can't, then we definitely can't. Can't spells out a limiting belief, a mental block. We can copy their actions, and then we might get somewhere near doing what they do. What we don't know, however, is what's going on inside their head. This is the second part of the story, and without that knowledge, we'll only be able to create a poor replica. We need the full story, so we need to ask them about their thoughts. We must model their behaviour and their thinking. So there are two sides to modelling: behaviour and thoughts. Thought accompanies behaviour. Thought is unconscious and unspoken. When we ask experts about their thoughts in certain situations, then what they normally say is, "I've got no idea. I haven't even thought about it." And a coach can help here to reveal the unspoken beliefs and help construct a system ready for success. NLP teaches us what questions to ask, in what way, so it helps people to reveal these hidden systems of thoughts. We can watch somebody and get an idea of what they're talking about and how they're thinking, but we can only be sure that we aren't guessing by asking them. What am I talking about specifically then when I talk about thoughts? When we consider thoughts, we might just think, well, I can't control my thoughts, and I get the thoughts that I'm given. And that doesn't have to be the case, does it? We may think something like, if I do this or achieve this, then I'll think differently. And it doesn't necessarily work like this. Thoughts precede action, and they accompany action. And the thoughts that precede action often determine the action. Thoughts come to us in strings, in groups, in pockets of thoughts, often one after the other. Repetitive thoughts. We have 90,000 thoughts a day, apparently, and over 90% of them are the same ones that we had yesterday. We've got a choice over our thoughts, and we condition our thought patterns by repeating them. We frame our thought patterns through values and belief systems that sit deeply unconscious within us. These are based upon past decisions that we made about what is important to us and what is true for us. If you play sport or keep fit, then something keeps motivating you to do that. And what is it? When you think of the answer to that question, you'll get statements like, such and such is important to me, which is a value. Or, I believe or think that if I do such and such, then I'll get something else. For example, happiness or a better life. If I do such and such, then I'll get happiness or a better life. These are based on decisions that you made in the past, and they influence you in the now. If you don't keep fit or you don't play sport, then what's stopping you? Values are, beliefs are, based on past decisions. You can change your decisions and change your values and your beliefs, and therefore create a different motivation towards what you want. And you can only do that if you know what they are. You can adopt other people's thinking, their values, their beliefs, by finding out what they are and deciding to have them for yourself. And you might ask, well, that's fine, but how do I actually install them into myself and into my thinking? Well, NLP techniques will do this for you, and these involve repetition and they involve visualization. Experts in all fields have specific systems that they use in their thoughts and actions, that they repeat consistently, and that's what delivers their excellence. These internal systems, these thoughts, are their values, their belief systems, strategies, and states of mind. You might ask, well, what are values? And, well, they're the things that are important to us. Things that we want and things that we don't want. We have values towards what we want, and we have values away from what we don't want. Beliefs consist of positive beliefs and also limiting beliefs about what's possible and about how things work. We've got strategies for mindsets, for decisions, and strategies in ways of thinking that lead to a behavioural outcome. And in terms of states of mind or states, we can change states, we can chain states, collapse states, anchor in new strategies and new states. And these are all basic NLP techniques that we can use. In order to recreate excellence, we need to discover and model these thinking strategies and systems that our modelling subjects have, the experts, these experts in the field that we're wanting to model. We need to find out what their thinking strategies and systems are and replicate them. Successful people have very clear objectives, outcomes and goals as well. And if you really want to achieve something, then you need to create desire. I mean, real desire and motivation to do that thing. You need to think, I just have to do this, or I have to have this. And if you think like this, then you can and you must. If you go back to your list and look at column 2 on that list and pick something out and say, well, I'd quite like that to happen. I'd quite like to do that. Then, is it going to happen? Probably not. What do I mean by clear outcomes, objectives and goals then? Well, I'm talking about a clear mental picture of what you want to happen. Successful athletes create this all the time. Jessica Ennis, the heptathlon gold medalist from London Olympics, is one who describes in her book how she used to visualise standing on the podium and getting her gold medal, really being there. How powerful a motivator is that? How would she prepare for her events? Well, she'd use mental rehearsal. She'd be seeing how she would perform, the smooth actions, the speed, feeling what she would feel, nice and calm, hearing the roar of the crowd. This stuff is really powerful. If you listen to talent show winners, they all talk about having dreamt of being on stage and they visualise being there. And there they are. So, go ahead now and pick one of your objectives from column 2. And if you've got that thing, then when you think of that thing, do you have a mental picture of it? Close your eyes if you need to now and just answer the question to yourself. Have you got a mental picture of this thing? And is this picture clear to you? Does it have you in the picture achieving your outcome? The key to using mental imagery is to make the pictures more powerful, vivid, motivational, real life. And we do this using a process in NLP called submodalities. So go ahead and indulge me for a moment. Bring your objective back to mind now. So, have you done that? Do you have it in mind? Great, thank you. So, again, you can close your eyes in order to visualise this better if you need to. So make sure that you see yourself in your picture, achieving your goal, and notice what else is there in the picture. Is there anybody else there with you? Make your picture really colourful and notice the colours and really turn them up in your mind. And make the picture full size, right in the middle of your mind's eye. What do you hear as you achieve your goal? Is anybody saying anything to you or about you to other people? What else do you hear? How do you feel inside? What are you touching as you achieve this objective? And what are you saying to yourself? And how does that make you feel now? How do you feel now about your objective with that in mind? It's really powerful, this, isn't it? Thanks, you can open your eyes now. Thinking of this objective, we need you to be fully behind your motivation to achieve it. We need to be 100% sure that it's what you want. And there are a number of mental checks that we can take to help you be sure. Ask yourself, what is it going to take me to get there? What am I going to have to sacrifice? And ask yourself, is this okay? What impact will it have on other people? And is this okay? If it isn't okay, then what would be okay? And then think, will this enable me to get to where I want to be? In our modelling project, we're going to find an expert. We're going to find an expert with the skill that we want, and we're going to ask them questions so that we can understand how they're thinking as they carry out the skill that we want. We're going to find out how they hold their objectives in mind. We're going to discover their values, beliefs, strategies, and states of mind. We're also going to discover how they move from big picture thinking to small picture thinking, the detail. We're going to do this using processes from NLP called hierarchy of ideas and chunking. The key to this is to listen to the words that people use and the way that they describe what they're thinking about. How they automatically and unconsciously use their ability to cycle up and cycle down different levels in their thinking. Big picture thinking might be focusing on the outcome, the overall objective, the mental thoughts and pictures that are associated with that. There will also be thoughts and actions associated with the detail as well. Successful people and experts often think big picture. When you ask them how they do something, they'll give you a big picture response, and they'll say something like, well, I just do this or I just do that. And in order to replicate what they do, we need the detail. How have they actually built up the skill? What individual actions and skills do they have that leads to the outcome, to the process? Most skills have many little processes and other skills that are underneath them. These are skills built up over a period of time. We need to discover what they are and how they acquired them. What's an example of the detail, you might ask? Well, in a physical skill, it might be a movement of part of the body, say. So you might ask yourself as you see the expert carry out this movement of the body, you might say to yourself, well, okay, so does my arm need to bend in a certain way in order to do this? And so if it does, you'd be thinking, well, how do I actually go ahead and achieve that? How do I go ahead and do the exercises so that my arm changes shape or changes flexibility so that I can achieve that? And the answer is to find somebody who's done it and find out what did they do to get to that movement or that flexibility. We chunk together actions and thoughts as we build a skill, and they become unconscious to us as separate items. We do them automatically, and we've got to discover them one by one, practice and refine them to get the overall process or outcome. What I'm talking about here is developing a plan for deliberate practice. Anders Ericsson has done a lot of research on building skills and talent, and he says that we need 10,000 hours of deliberate practice to create world class. Not just any old practice. Any old practice means practicing your mistakes, and he talks about deliberate practice, the detail. We look at people doing things and we think, well, I'll never be able to do that. They must have been born with that talent. And let me tell you, this is a limiting belief, and it doesn't necessarily have to be true. There's been lots and lots of research and books written on this particular subject. For example, Talent is Overrated and Bounce, just two of the books, and they're excellent reads. See your modelling subject carrying out the skill. Maybe their body does do something that yours doesn't do. However, there are ways of conditioning thoughts and body to get them to do things that they don't do now. Bill Bailey was one of the superstars of basketball, and in his youth he decided that he wanted to improve his peripheral vision so that he could, when he was playing basketball, he could see all the players around him and be aware of everything around him whilst he was still focusing on the basketball in front of him. And he used to walk down his high street looking straight ahead and trying to pick out, as he walked down the high street, items in the shop windows without actually looking directly at them and using his expanded awareness. He worked and worked and worked at this skill, and eventually he got so good at it, people used to say when he was playing basketball that it appeared that he'd got eyes in the back of his head. And expanded awareness provokes a neuron response in the body, and this is something that we teach on our NLP courses. Now, it may be that your objective is something like being nice to people. Well, what does it take to be nice to people? Find somebody who does it in the way that you'd like to do it. How do they do it? What are their mindsets, habits, and actions? And start with the big picture and work down to get really specific about what you have to do and how you have to think. It may be that you're a top sports person, or you want to be. How do you develop and refine your skill and your expertise? Start with the big picture, beliefs, attitudes, etc., and then get specific. Every moment has a thought pattern, thinking systems that are vital to success. In his book, Bounce, Matthew Syed, who's an ex-table tennis champion, talks about key moments in sport where people choke. Let's call them the crunch moments in sport. For example, penalty shootouts. We're talking brain freeze time here. He says that the body goes back to beginner status as we consciously carry out our actions that in normal circumstances we carry out automatically and unconsciously, and this is what makes us choke. Brain freeze time. We need to rehearse these moments in full colour. We need to think, what will you do? What will you hear? What will you see? How must you feel? And what must you focus on? What sequence of thoughts do you want in these situations? This is preparation, rehearsal in minute detail. And we do this over and over again until it becomes unconscious in that particular situation. We program our behaviour and thoughts so that they're automatic. They give us what we want in normal circumstances. And what happens in a unique environment, these crunch moments? Well, what happens is we don't have programs for that. We become a beginner again. We choke, we lose. We think, next time I'll know what to do. Well, why wait until next time? Next time might never come again. We might say to ourselves, well, I've reached my limit. And if we say that, then we have. That's a limiting belief. What are the values, beliefs and strategies that we need for these moments? Ask somebody and use NLP. So, In order to get your action list for deliberate practice, you can cycle up and down from big picture to small picture and back again. Students from our NLP courses have used this modelling skill in all sorts of different modelling projects. They've become an expert in chalk drawings, learning English, networking, golf, financial trading, sales, presentations, martial arts. The list goes on. They can be big projects or they can be small projects. The techniques are exactly the same. One guy decided that he wanted to be able to stand on one leg and crouch down without falling over. And he modelled somebody's strategy, their physical and mental strategy to do that. And he learned how to do it. Fortunately for him, he was a strong guy, so it didn't take long once he'd learned how to do it. Having a process to follow and knowing how and what, that's the key. So I hope that you found this useful and I hope that you found it motivating. Hopefully we've started something here for you. You've got your list of goals and objectives, and if you look back at that list again now, what's the one thing that you really feel like you have to do or have? What's the one thing? Take that thing, make a commitment to yourself now to go and get it. Make this your personal modelling project and start it today. Learning NLP is just the beginning of the journey. It provides you with a set of tools that you can use in your life to make it fulfilling, so that you can get what you want, so that you can improve your life in the now and look back on it in time to come, happy that you made the most of it. I really hope that you got some great value from this video. Use it to start designing your life the way that you want it. If you've got any questions or queries, then leave me a comment. And if this has whet your appetite for NLP and you want to use it in a structured way, then we've got a range of NLP training courses that suit all levels. So visit us at excellenceassured.com. Thanks ever so much for your time. I'm Anthony Beardsell, and I'll see you in the next video.